Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Big Idea Podcast. My name is Eric Bramlett, Creative Arts Director. I am joined by Tim Sutherland. Tim, what is your title these days?
According to...
Let's just go with job description. Let's say somebody wants to know what you do. What do you say that you do?
Well, my wife asked me if I lay awake at night thinking of ways to annoy her.
Okay, right.
Does that... Oh, you mean like...
No, but I'm just talking like for your job.
I'm a teaching team leader.
Teaching team leader.
Yes.
All right. And so we like to think of ourselves as the ones who get the earliest shot at the big idea. And so because we get the earliest shot at it, we talk about it here together. And then this conversation, as it is being recorded, can kind of become the foundation for brainstorming that takes place in large groups as we're creating creative content for weekend services, as well as informing small group discussion guides, anything that we do around here that's connected to this big idea, which it turns out is a lot. So on that note, we have 1 week to cover. It is a standalone series.
It's kind of a Zen series.
Sure.
Because when you have a one-part series...
Yes. And it's like, make sure you come back for no, you're here. It's only 1 week.
Yes.
Today, so would you say, today we're beginning and ending a series.
Yes.
Called Maybe Next Year. And maybe next year is a phrase that is very familiar to Cubs fans like myself. But we're not going to talk about that
this year.
Well, sure, yeah, this year it was definitely a maybe next year. I don't know. I don't follow the minor league teams, but I hear that that it's of interest to some other people.
Yes.
But actually, I shouldn't say that I don't follow minor league teams, because literally last night I watched a Phoenix Suns preseason game. Ugh.
So you've been following a minor league team for most of your life.
Yes, most of my life.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about maybe next year, though. This is taking place right in that pivot point as we start 2013. And so we are after Christmas and we are before New Year's. And so what are we talking about? What is going to be the big idea for maybe next year?
Well, as most people I'm sure are pretty aware, very few people experience lasting transformation from New Year's resolutions. They're kind of fun to make. Some people make them very seriously. Some people make them sort of, rather flippantly. But either way, everybody knows that lasting transformation rarely comes from New Year's resolutions. So we're going to talk about what if this year could be like completely way different in a good sort of way than any year before, and you don't just decide to have something be different and then blow it and then have it not happen and then go, oh, well, maybe next year. So we're going to talk about how 2013 can be a completely different year, both in the lives of ourselves as individuals and ourselves as a community, where we dedicate ourselves to really the big idea from 2 previous series.
Oh.
Which is cool. We began the year, if you'll remember, with Discover Your Mission Now, which was all about bless and being a missional community and a missional Christ follower.
Yes.
As if there's another kind of missional Christ follower.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's like being a Christian Christ follower. But you know what we're saying. And then we also did this series called Alive Without Breathing, which is all about spiritual disciplines. So we're going to talk about 2013 as being different from any other year, potentially, when we bring together the big idea from Discover Your Mission Now with the big idea from Alive Without Breathing. And this is the whole idea that we basically ripped off from Michael Frost's talk at Exponential on the cell and the coracle, and talking about how personal spiritual disciplines are not something that can or should be divorced from missional impact on the world. So we're going to talk about the cell and the coracle, and in terms of through the biblical story of Daniel, who is this person who had just amazing spiritual disciplines in his life, but he was also somebody who had almost mind-bogglingly far-reaching, mind-bogglingly
The ways in which he was far-reaching.
And his impact in the world was just
mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling. Lee.
Yes.
Est.
Learish.
Yes. And so we're going to talk about both the story of how the Celtic monks changed the course of Western civilization by being people who lived by spiritual disciplines, and the connection between those spiritual disciplines and their unwavering, unflagging mission of changing the entire world as they know it. And they did. So we're going to talk about that, and so we'll talk about both Western civilization and show how what the Celtic monks are doing with the cell and the coracle is not something they just came up with. It's right there in the Bible. Daniel is doing this, centuries and centuries before Jesus is ever even born. He lives this life where he lives by these rhythms of both the what most of us would consider the inner life of spiritual disciplines and the outer life of missional impact.
So why don't you? Obviously it's something that really happened. So it's not purely a metaphor, but it becomes a metaphor in our context. Fill us in on the metaphor of the cell and the coracle.
Okay, 2 circles. One of the things that Celtic monks did is they lived in little huts that surrounded the abbey or the monastery that were called cells, and they were circular little buildings. And it was inside of these little huts called cells that the monks would pray and meditate on Scripture and talk with one another, confess their sins to one another. Basically, that was kind of one of the primary sites of personal spiritual disciplines. So one circle is the cell, but they also had this other circle in their life, which was this one-man wicker basket type boat called a coracle, and it's basically just imagine like a half of a sphere. It was rudderless, and they had this weird thing they would do is they would set themselves adrift and in pairs of 2, praying that God would carry them by the currents to wherever he wanted them to take the gospel. And so the cell and the coracle, these 2 circles, the circular hut they lived in and the circular boat that they floated around in that carried them from the British Isles to Western Europe, those were the 2 things they lived by. And so they were both people of incredible missional impact and difference making on the world as they knew it, really. Western Europe had become essentially pagan, fall of the so-called Holy Roman Empire, invasion of the Gothic peoples from the Germanic tribes, basically, who were pagan. And arguably, there's a book called How the Irish Saved Western Civilization. It's a good read. I really, really like it. And it's arguable that Christianity would have never survived, let alone ever thrived in Western Europe after the 7th century had it not been for the monks who came in their coracles, and they wouldn't have been in their coracles had it not been for them living these spiritual disciplined lives in the cell. So it's the cell and the coracle, how those come together, and that's what we see in the biblical story of Daniel, and that's the challenge for the coming year. And so we're going to end the service with an awesome way. Instead of saying do this more or do that more, we're going to ask people to choose their cell and to choose and to basically designate what they believe to be the place the coracle of their life has taken them.
And for some people that may be a reaffirmation of something that they've already explored in terms of their small group and their mission. So it's not a question of like you got to come up with something brand new in this moment, but it's really kind of that aha of saying this is one of the ways it means, when we're talking about these things living together, coexisting, they feed off of each other, and you can't kind of have one effectively without the other.
Heads and tails of the same coin. And with the cell, we are encouraging people to do something that we haven't done in a long time. We want to encourage them to pick a particular place that they're going to pray, read their Bibles, and journal in 2013. A particular place, a place that they can access any time of the day or night. It might, for most people, it's going to be some room of the house. But we're going to encourage them to have a place that this is going to be like my cell.
Gotcha. That's cool.
I can pray anywhere, I can read the Bible anywhere, I can journal anywhere, but one place I will regularly commit myself to doing this is my cell. And for other people, maybe they'll pick their car, or if they live in some place that's not as cold as a well digger's butt. Yes. But then, like it is here, maybe it's someplace outside. I don't know. But right. So we want Eric to have a place that he goes, you know what, this year's going to be different because that's going to be the place.
Right. No, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, and then also, too, we're going to be specific about what particular geographic place is God calling you. Mm-hmm. Where are the currents of your life brought you?
Where's your coracle adrift to, and where will it land?
Where has it brought you?
Yeah.
And we want to suggest you're already there.
Yeah.
And for some people, they might say, it's my home. I mean, especially if there are people in their home who are not Christ followers or who are far from God. Other people might say it's my work. Other people might say it's my school. Other people might say it's my neighborhood. But we're going to get away from this idea of the old trappings of mission being this foreign thing. It's where you are. Your mission field, for lack of a better word, is where you are. You didn't just drift to where you are by accident. You are where you are for a reason. God has a purpose for you being where in the neighborhood you're in the town that you live in the school that you attend, in the workplace in which you work.
Now give us just a little bit on Daniel then, because it's sort of like, I think the story in Europe, the monks, that's pretty cool from a historical standpoint. Tie us into the way in which Daniel operated in these two worlds before that metaphor.
Well, as you may know from your Old Testament Bible reading, or from growing up in Sunday school, like me, and you grew up in Sunday school, of course.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
There's a story there, but that's another podcast. Daniel, we know we're all famous for Daniel in the...
Lion's Den.
Very good.
That just came out of me. I wasn't... I was... Yeah, I can't help myself. Lion's Den.
Was there like a childish diminutive nickname that anyone ever called you, like Willie or Airy or anything like that?
No. The beauty of the name Eric is that nothing rhymes with it.
Yeah.
And no one really knew William.
Yeah.
So Eric, what?
Yeah.
Eric.
We can't call him.
Generic. That's the same. That's not even a rhyme. It's
yeah.
the same. It's the same word. So, and what kid knows the word generic?
Right.
No one.
No.
So I got away without having that.
Okay. So we're in Sunday school.
Yes.
And we're learning about Daniel and the lion's den and that the whole thing, how God saves him. But there's interesting context for that. Daniel had been basically exiled, forcibly taken from his home to the Persian Empire, and they are intentionally trying to turn him into a Persian politician, statesman, bureaucrat kind of guy, and he resists that. He resists being assimilated to the Persian culture, and he insists on being a person that follows the ways of the Hebrews, who follows the ways of the Israelites, which has to do with, I eat certain things, I don't eat certain things, I pray in certain ways. And what you see is Daniel is this guy who continues holding on to his identity through personal spiritual disciplines of who he is as a Hebrew, as an Israelite. At the same time, though, as a result of the way he perseveres and the way that God protects him when he's in the lion's den, it has this massive impact on the entire really Persian Empire. In what you've got in your big idea graphs is this unbelievable edict that King Darius puts out after Daniel is saved from the lion's den. He sends out this edict that basically says, okay, everybody, Daniel's God's the real God. Everybody must venerate. Everybody must worship Daniel's God. Now, does that mean that everyone converted? No. But think about this. Imagine in any empire, especially one that's extremely polytheistic and pagan, like the Persian Empire, the emperor going, okay, everybody, I want you to worship this one God. Even if it meant adding God in a polytheistic way to the Persian pantheon. Still, it's just this amazing impact that Daniel had. And we're going to see that there is no disconnecting who Daniel was as a person who had impact on his entire culture and the personal spiritual disciplines.
That's right. Yep. All right. Well, I think it's going to be a fantastic series.
Yeah.
It's just 1 week.
But it's still a series.
It's still an amazing series. So looking forward to it. Maybe next year. One other caveat, we're changing things up all the time around here. In the past, particularly when Kids City and the adult weekend services were aligned in original content, we did use this particular weekend as an opportunity for a family service style And in that case, you had original content being created at Kid City, you had original content being created at Adults, and those two teams worked together to craft a family service. This is not that. Even though Daniel is a great story that a lot of kids know, or at least has been, like he said, Sunday school wise, has been taught a lot.
Got to be top 3 children's Sunday school lessons of all time.
I would think so, yeah. And in that respect, might be advantageous. I'm not sure you're going to grab them with the cell and the coracle.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very important part of this big idea. So from us to you, we say this is not a family service. This is not family service material. Necessarily. And right now, our structures are such that we don't plan on creating space content material that would be reflective of a family service. If you and your team are going to forge and blaze the trail that says we're going to try to find out what's happening with Kid City and Orange on that weekend, and we're going to try to create a hybrid for a group experience with this content, we will do what we can to support that endeavor from a cheerleading standpoint. And if there are other things as these things are being created that can help you in that, we're definitely here to help. But as it relates to, from the ground up, crafting a structure that is a family service, that won't be happening from the central standpoint, and the big idea will still need to be communicated at your campuses. Yeah. So if you have any questions about that part of it, as your teams are starting to brainstorm that, getting ready for sort of post-Christmas chaos, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. We will do whatever we can to help make that clear, and whatever we can do to help.
And if you're really, really, really set on doing a family service, please don't back off with kids. Kids need to be taught this, that I am not a person who practices spiritual disciplines because it's just the right thing to do or the Christian thing to do. God has a purpose in it, that he's, as Frost said, he's steeling me for the mission. He's changing me, transforming me, in some ways toughening me up, and in other ways tendering me up to be a person on mission. I wish when I was little somebody had taught me that there was this connection. So I think it is an invaluable opportunity. This is not one of those times, it's never one of those times really to say, the big idea won't work for kids. No, this big idea works for kids if your campus is committed to doing a family service for whatever reason on this weekend. It will work. I guarantee I guarantee it.
I just wanted to interrupt it. I was afraid a lead might slip out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's what we've got, and I'm excited about it. So we look forward to the wonderful things that get created and illuminated and utilized for the mission. So very excited, and we will see you next year. So long, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Did that look like I was doing something different?
No, I was just afraid that you were going to try and kiss me because it was like midnight. And
no, I don't even.
Oh, wait, you're not Alec.
I don't even have any mistletoe.